Okay, I just realized I had chai on the stove. I forgot all about it. It's helpful to learn from other people, and there are so many women and facilitators out there that have inspired me and really guided my experience of being pregnant, and hopefully there is something that you can take away from all of this content here. I'd love to share with you some key resources that if you are pregnant or planning to be pregnant or having another kid one day, hopefully these are going to be great tools for you. During my first pregnancy, I loved the books by Ina May Gaskin, so particularly her Guide to Childbirth, and a book called 10 Moons by Jane Hardwicke Collins. Those two books would be, if you didn't have a lot of time or you really just wanted to hone in, two incredibly powerful books to support you in having really smooth birth process and very much empowering you to own your birth and own your birth experience. In hindsight, looking back, what I'm learning now being pregnant this time, I do have a lot of imbalances from previous dance injuries from many years ago that have created so much vulnerability in my pelvic region around my sacrum and sacroiliac joints, and I think that this really exacerbated the pain and the intensity of my first labor. Ultimately, my intention is to again birth right here in the pool at home. I can't emphasize enough that empowering yourself, informing yourself, and processing any subconscious beliefs and conditioning is going to be paramount to getting as close to your birth vision and intention as possible. Also, knowing the different poses, positions, postures that you can tap into during labor depending on what's happening. So if you've got a posterior baby, if you've got a breech baby, you know, how you can work with your body to move it to a more desirable position if necessary. Here we are now at 17 weeks pregnant. A lot has definitely changed in the last few weeks, and perhaps you'll see a little bit of a different energy here comparative to how I was feeling in the 7-week footage. Life has been a little busy and has taken me for some twists and turns the past few weeks, which is why there is such a huge gap between the 7-week footage and now. 17 weeks, it's been 10 weeks, which is huge in terms of the development of the baby. At 17 weeks in my first pregnancy, that was the week where my energy just bounded back. I have not had that. However, I must say, upon reflecting on my content and the footage of how I was feeling at 7 weeks and how I am now, I can really confidently say that for my first pregnancy, the first trimester was a lot more challenging than this pregnancy. Even though I probably felt at 7 weeks it was really heavy because that was when that initial real wave of fatigue and nausea was really coming on. But it definitely did not last as long as what it did for my first pregnancy. And I don't know if it's because when you're pregnant with your first baby, there is almost a luxury around first trimester. It's really luxurious. You don't feel it or really realize it at the time. Being pregnant and not having another child by your side a lot and constantly is beautiful and easy, and it's so much more conducive to being able to nurture yourself and take so much rest and prioritize yourself. And what I found this time around is that the energy slump was not as intense, was not as long, and the nausea definitely subsided a lot more quickly. I have to wonder though if that's a sense of, you know, when you have a kid already, a young kid, like I'm not talking about a teenager or something, but when you've got a little kid, so our boy is 4, it wouldn't surprise me that with this particular pregnancy in first trimester, the fatigue and the nausea wasn't as long lasting and perhaps overwhelming, because when you are a mother already and you have to show up every single day to a 4-year-old or a toddler, you kind of just have to get on with life. Whilst it sounds all beautiful and good and well to paint this picture of honoring deep rest and honoring nutrition, upon reflection, I wonder if the fatigue and nausea that I felt this time around with this pregnancy was lesser in terms of the length, the duration, maybe because ultimately I still had to get up every day and show up for my kid. I have not had the luxury of having a nap. So my first pregnancy, I napped every single day up until 17 weeks. Every day. I needed a nap to go and teach a yoga class. I haven't felt that I need that this time round. And I think that this time round, the fatigue came with the fatigue that already exists as being a parent, and that is undeniable. And then you add pregnancy into the mix. So it's just a little bit different this time around. The great news is that the nausea subsided much more quickly. I've been eating pretty normally. I've been eating really well, and I have upped my game in terms of taking supplements. So I'm taking regular ashwagandha, brahmi, and shatavari every day. But I did have to stop the shatavari for a short window of time because I did have some mold exposure, which led me to having some pretty serious rhinitis. I have by nature a really sensitive respiratory system, being born an asthmatic and having really terrible hay fever and poor immunity when I was a kid. That is something that my body is hypersensitive to, especially this time of the year. Here in Australia, it is autumn, and that change of season is a real trigger for my respiratory system. Not so much spring, but definitely autumn when things become more dry and cool. I was pretty down and out for 3 weeks with this rhinitis, and in all transparency, whilst I was doing all the best things, I was taking saline up my nose, so saltwater rinses, I was doing oilation and nasya with warmed sesame oil and eucalyptus. I ended up having to resort to taking a pharmaceutical nasal spray that just an off the shelf I could walk in and buy, like a decongestant. Turns out I was taking the wrong decongestant and for way too long, so I was actually making myself sick. Literally within 24 hours of knowing this and swapping to a specific mold exposure rhinitis nasal spray, within 24 hours the symptoms subsided and I felt 1,000 times better. So I was kicking myself because I really value avoiding pharmaceuticals as much as possible. The big learning here for me was to seek professional advice, and to think that I could have saved myself 3 weeks of this discomfort and depleting lack of capacity to breathe well. It felt really detrimental. In addition, I have had some upper thoracic pain, but I've been seeing my chiro and I've been loving chiropractic care, and I really feel like chiropractic care has been an incredible foundation the past year for me to prepare my body for not only pregnancy and carrying a baby, but my vision is that it's going to be profoundly helpful in terms of my experience of labor as well. And that's been helping, and also laying over and doing some thoracic releasing. And I have no doubt that it's also got a lot to do with my body shifting, and that's just inevitable. Thirdly, I've also suffered from a little bit of asthma. Again, this is a trigger for me this time of the year. I was able to get myself off daily heavy asthma medication when I was around 27, 28 years old. This has only been my second flare-up of asthma in many years, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. A lot of our vulnerabilities can be highlighted during pregnancy, particularly in first trimester, because of the major hormonal changes that are happening in the body. It can highlight and increase those inflammatory states and the vulnerabilities. So having these physical challenges and also already mothering, it has been quite tiring, but all in all, I have felt really good. I have no major complaints. The support that I've been leaning on and utilizing to ensure that I am doing the best that I can to take care of myself and this baby is, again, the supplementation of Ayurvedic herbs. I'm still taking the iodine. I'm still taking iron supplements. It's so important to supplement with iron during pregnancy and postpartum. I am vegetarian, but even if you are not, that doesn't necessarily mean you are absorbing and assimilating and digesting all these minerals and nutrients that come in through your food. On the note of my GP experience, I did go and visit my old original GP at the new practice, and I had a profoundly different experience, and I felt very supported and very validated, even though she is still pretty mainstream. I got the referral that I needed, I got the support that I needed, and I got the blood tests that I needed, and I did end up having a low B12 result. First pregnancy, I had some lower iron. This is my second pregnancy, lower B12, and iron is fine. Other than that, bloods and everything are all great. I actively chose to decline the Harmony test, even though I am over age 35, and also decline an 8-week scan. It's really important to me to have minimal intervention. I've already been having now at 17 weeks a lot of physical movement, a lot of flutters and sensations of bubbles popping inside. It's very dynamic already, and the placenta at this point in time is at the back, which is where it was last time. Interestingly, still here I am in second trimester and I don't have any major food cravings. I am definitely feeling more hungry, but I'm starting to feel like I can't eat as much in a meal, so I'm starting to eat a little bit more frequently, smaller meals more frequently. I've had some beautiful massages and I am definitely now that I have more energy, really prioritizing more self-care practices, more oleation and abhyanga of my skin, particularly of my belly and my breasts and my pelvis if I don't have a lot of time. I have felt extremely dehydrated. I think you're meant to have approximately an extra liter of fluids a day when you're growing a baby, and I've been trying to have all the warm fluids and the herbal teas and also include more hydration in the foods that I'm consuming, but I still feel so dry, and my skin's felt dry, my throat, my mouth. Okay, it's 19 weeks. I am 19 weeks pregnant now, which the baby is the size of a large mango, I think. Definitely showing. Everybody's telling me I'm showing. I've had everyone who has decided to let me know what gender or what sex they think the baby is. They think it's a girl. I do have a little sense of what the sex may be. I had a really strong sense with our boy that it was a boy. I just knew 100%. There is a really strong sense of organization innate in me, not just a nesting via being pregnant, but so I really would love to know whether or not I keep all the real boyish stuff that we've got, or if I can donate it all to charity or to another mama. I have a few girls' names already. I think we might have one boy's name, but not 100%. I'm certainly feeling really hungry, and also my capacity to breathe, so accessing that space for my breath is a little bit more challenging. Getting heaps of movement from the baby, which is really special, really beautiful. I am booking myself in to see a female specific focused physio, which is more so for postnatal care, but I'd like to get in there and get established at least one time before I give birth. I am planning to get up a beautiful tincture from our compound pharmacy for postnatal support, for different herbs in there that are going to be really beautiful for postnatal bleeding and supporting the uterus. So utilizing the opportunity now to continue minimizing our home and decluttering, which has been a huge process for me, particularly in the last, I want to say 6 months, but I've been loving minimalism and following that kind of whole way of life since about 2013. Minimizing, changing around some decor, and really asking myself, what do I need for this baby second time round? What did I do the first time? What can I learn from that first pregnancy? I have sanitized and cleaned up all of our cloth nappies, our cloth diapers, so they're sitting ready to go. I've got to make up some new wet bags, passing on my flannelette pajamas bottoms, which have holes in them, and going to cut them and repurpose them into little flannelette baby wipes, reusable wipes. I've also got some towels that I want to cut up, utilizing things that we already have in our home that we don't really need, that we could probably get rid of, but just giving them that second life, which will also save us money. It's amazing for the planet, but we'll just see how things go. It's going to definitely be a learning curve having a second child as well. There's a sense of familiarity, and I have no doubt there'll be elements of having another child that will feel a lot more relaxed and easeful than the first time, and I'll have a little bit more confidence. You know, there's so much unknown as well, and I am just open to that and embracing that. I'm about to start reading Birthing from Within by Pam England. I've just finished reading the first 40 days book. I am waiting to get my copy of the Postnatal Depletion Cure. So there's a lot of books that I didn't get to read with my first pregnancy, although I read a lot. I read a lot of parenting books, I read breastfeeding books. It's really exciting because I get this opportunity to read all the other books that have either come out or that have come into my radar. Because I'm pregnant at a different season, in a different season of the year, I have already felt that I don't know what I'm going to wear through the middle of winter, and I'm really trying to avoid excessive consumption and going out and buying anything that I would not otherwise wear if I wasn't pregnant. All right, let's wrap up second trimester. I'm sitting here with you now at 27 weeks, so sort of around that window as you come to the end of second trimester. I'm feeling a million times better than what I felt this entire pregnancy, and I know I don't have anything major to complain about. Low risk pregnancy, no issues with the pregnancy itself aside. It has been a really challenging first 6 months of pregnancy for health reasons, which I've touched on, having asthma, having some rhinitis. Our little boy has fallen sick a couple of times, and that's not really like him. It's just been a lot less sleep than I really hoped second trimester would bring, and it's certainly been a lot less energy than what stereotypically a second trimester would bring. But we are all well. We are all well now, and we are all getting sleep through the night, consistent chunks of sleep for the first time in 6 months, and the baby's not even here yet. The supplements that I'm currently taking at 27 weeks and have been for a few weeks, a vitamin D. Interestingly, vitamin D is now correlated to improved states of asthma. Considering it is winter here in Australia, the days are shorter, we've had a lot of rain, and it's just a little bit difficult to go out and get all of my skin in the sun on a regular basis with a 4.5-year-old. I am also taking an omega-3 supplement, a vegan plant-based omega-3 supplement by Green Nutritionals. So I've taken this on and off over the years. I'm taking ashwagandha in the mornings, shatavari most nights when I remember. And in full disclosure, with the weeks of asthma that I had, I ended up going back onto a preventative medication. So I haven't been on a preventative on a regular basis for over a decade, or about a decade now. So I was a little uncertain, but it worked very, very quickly in combination with the vitamin D. Already a natural response to pregnancy for many women, even who have never had any respiratory issues, is for the respiratory system, particularly the nasal membranes, etc., the sinuses to be inflamed and to have a little bit of irritation there. One of the signs that I know that I'm a million times better in that respect is that I continually forget to take it. I can breathe really well, so I'm forgetting to take it on a daily basis. I've had a couple of massages, I've had some amazing body work, not as much as I would like, but I'll talk more about that in my third trimester video, because that's going to be a big focus of my third trimester. And if there's any imparting wisdom that I can share with you as the viewer, if you've never had kids before, is to really proactively tend to that fourth trimester, that window of weeks after you first give birth. It's so important. We put a lot of emphasis on being pregnant, but I think giving birth and the postnatal period is just wildly important. So last week I went to see a female specialized physiotherapist. It was so nice to give myself a baseline for where my body is at from the perspective of giving birth, but also looking at my pelvic floor, because I have not really given any thought to that part of my body ever since giving birth. You constantly, as a mother, really put yourself second or third or fourth or last, and these are not things that you necessarily prioritize if you don't have any major concerns. And you know, postnatal is forever, of course, so it's never too late, no matter when you had a baby or when you will have a baby. As a female, it's really imperative to go and see someone who specializes in this, no matter what stage of life you're at. And my focus now is to really prep and prime my body and manage those imbalances to minimize the likelihood that this baby turns posterior. And this baby is head down, wriggling around so much. But from here on in, my major focuses are nurturing myself and my nervous system and my mind, my immune system, and preparing my body in the best way that I know how to really get my body in a place to promote that prime positioning. We can spend our pregnancy wanting to make sure the baby is in perfect position, whatever that actually means, without considering that the baby could definitely move into a less than ideal position once labor begins. My husband is currently away, and he's away for about 5.5 weeks in total. He's actually entirely non-contactable. So that has been beautiful for me and my boy, for that closeness, that cherishing of that time together before he has a sibling. Yet it has been really challenging. It's been my first taste of solo parenting, because not only are we literally apart, but I cannot contact him. I can't reach out to him if anything goes wrong. I can't ask for his opinion or guidance. So there's some gifts in that. It's I think probably helping us value each other that much more. Been something to really look forward to, for him to come home and us to move into the spring season here in Australia as a family, just to be together in those last few weeks really before the baby comes. About to launch my new website, which is very exciting, but a much longer process than ever anticipated, because the tech gods have been, I don't know, a little disgruntled. I'm not sure. My brain is definitely shrinking, which is quite literally, certain sections of the woman's brain does literally shrink during pregnancy, and I'm feeling it. Honoring the fact that I'm older, honoring the fact that I already have a child, honoring the fact that I am important, and put things in place for those postnatal weeks, asking for help, asking for support, listening to awesome podcasts, and reading the right things that put me in the mind frame of really curating what I envision. Stay tuned. Take care. Bye-bye.